Inbounds it to Hamby, and so now that'll be that. So the Indiana Fever come into here after losing 3 of their last 4 on the
The Indiana Fever just pulled off their grittiest win of the season, but it almost didn't count. Up by 1 in the final seconds, refs handed the LA Sparks extra chances that flat out shouldn't have happened. Caitlin Clark and Sydney Colson called it out on the spot, and fans are heated. So why was this game so controversial? And how did the Fever push through all the chaos to keep their playoff hopes alive? Let's break it down, and why this win might just flip the season's momentum. What do you think of the WNBA refs this year? Drop your takes in the comments. Let's go!
After leading by a single point in the final seconds, the referees gave the LA Sparks multiple extra chances that should never have happened. Caitlin Clark and Sydney Colson called it out immediately, and fans are furious. So why was this game so controversial? And how did the Fever overcome everything stacked against them to keep their playoff dreams alive?
One running theme in the WNBA: terrible officiating. The people in the striped shirts just can't seem to get it right. Every time I watch a game, the same thought crosses my mind. How much money did these refs have riding on this? Take the Fever. Versus a Sparks game, the final 3.9 seconds felt like a lifetime because the refs stretched it into an eternity. Instead of letting the players decide it, whistle after whistle nearly ripped away Indiana's biggest win of the season. The Fever were hanging on to a 76-75 lead. The crowd was loud, and both teams knew this wasn't just one game. It was about the playoff race. Indiana sat 6th, LA just 2 spots back. One possession could swing the entire picture. Inside Crypto.com arena, every dribble mattered, but somehow the whistles wouldn't stop.
One common theme in the WNBA is how poorly officiated these games can be. The lack of competence from the people wearing the striped suits. Every time I watch a WNBA game, a thought crosses my mind when it comes to the officials, and that thought is, how much money do you have on this?
The Sparks had one last shot to steal it, but instead of letting the game breathe, the refs kept jumping in. The clock reset in ways no one could explain. Contact was called on one end, swallowed on the other. And every time Indiana forced a turnover or played flawless defense, Los Angeles somehow walked away with yet another inbound. It wasn't a marathon sequence, but each stoppage stretched 3.9 seconds into what felt like an eternity. To fans, it didn't look like crunch time basketball. It looked like the Sparks were being handed lifeline after lifeline. The question wasn't whether Indiana could hold the lead. It was, would the refs even let them?
I'm talking about right at the end of the game when the nonsense was being called and cheating was being speculated, right? Everybody was looking like how Caitlin Clark was looking by the end of that game last night with the Indiana Fever and the Los Angeles Sparks. Everybody was looking just like this, man. What in the world was going on?
It started with the Sparks looking for one last chance to steal it, but instead of letting play run its course, the refs stepped in over and over. The clock reset strangely. Contact was called on one end but ignored on the other. And even when the Fever forced turnovers or contested perfectly, Los Angeles kept getting fresh inbound opportunities. These weren't long sequences, but each stoppage stretched the game into something that started to feel suspiciously one-sided. Fans watching could only wonder, how many lifelines would the Sparks be given?
So let's take a look at this. All right, now it was 0.6 on the shot clock when this happened, okay? They had the ball, they were running around. I thought the game was over here, honestly. I thought the game was over, but they ended up calling a foul, saying, oh, the game is still going on. All right, whatever. They got the foul. Cool. So Kelsey Mitchell, she goes to the free throw line, right? And she missed both of them. Now, I think Kelsey Mitchell should have made both of them, all right? At least one of them. But she missed both of them.
In that exhausting stretch, Aaliyah Boston delivered the defensive play of the night, ripping the ball away when the Sparks tried to force it inside. Indiana pushed the other way, and Kelsey Mitchell earned a trip to the line. With just 0.4 seconds left, this should have been the dagger. Her first free throw clanged out, but the miss didn't matter. The clock was supposed to die there. Game over, right? Wrong. Instead of letting the final tick expire, the officials somehow gifted Los Angeles another inbound with 0.1 still showing. A tenth of a second, less than a blink. Fever fans watching at home lost it. How is any team supposed to run a real play in that sliver of time?
Man, there is no way. Right at the end of the game, you should be on top of it. You telling me you're not paying attention to when some hands touch that ball? Come on, man. And then to reward them with the timeout, like, fam, that's crazy work. Look, Caitlin Clark, like, what is going on here? She's like, no. Look, Caitlin ready to run the floor, fam. She's like, no. What is this, man? What is this?
This wasn't just paranoia either. The WNBA has already had multiple questionable endings this season. Strange timing resets, soft fouls that swing momentum, and replay monitor delays that seem to confuse more than clarify. Fans across the league have been fed up, and Indiana just felt like the latest victim. That infamous 0.1 second inbound instantly went viral, with clips flooding timelines and Fever fans accusing the league of either pure incompetence or worse. The narrative wasn't just that LA got another chance, it was that the league's credibility took another hit in front of everyone.
A 0.1 on the shot. 0.1 on the shot clock, fam. What are we doing? What are we doing, man? I mean, this is nonsense. How do you even have time to do anything? How do you even have time?
Then they put 0.1 on the shot clock. Fam, what are we doing here? Seriously, what are we doing? That's not basketball, that's nonsense. You can't even catch and release in 0.1 seconds. There's no time to set, no time to shoot, nothing. Yet somehow, the refs acted like a miracle play was still on the table.
Oh my goodness, man. They did everything they could to try to get them a win in this one, fam. It's ridiculous. It was flat out.
The Fever refused to be undone. Los Angeles got chance after chance, but the Sparks couldn't cash in, and Boston sealed it by holding firm at the rim. The ball bounced away, the buzzer finally sounded for real, and Indiana had survived a trial. By whistles. It wasn't clean, it wasn't pretty, but it was a statement. No matter how chaotic the calls, the Fever's resilience and grit decided the night, and with key players still on the sidelines, that fight might be the spark that defines their season.
Steph mentioned, whenever she sees you with the two black eyes, she smiles in a way because it just exemplifies your toughness. Do you feel tough in these kinds of situations with these two black eyes?
I mean, that's what people keep telling me. Every time she sees me, she smiles and then she says, "I'm so sorry." I'm like, you don't need to be sorry. This is what it is. And when I'm playing, like, I forget about it, and then I go and look in the mirror. I'm like, oh shit, they're still there. So yeah, I don't really think too much about it because I don't necessarily feel them all the time.
Yeah, and you're still able to see completely fine.
Yep.
All right.
Nothing.
But Indiana didn't just show up, they battled. With Clark out, someone had to control the tempo, and Kelsey Mitchell answered the call, slicing through the Sparks' defense and keeping the scoreboard moving. Aaliyah Boston anchored the paint. Like a veteran twice her age, cleaning up rebounds and erasing shots at the rim. Even Lexi Hull, bruised and battered, played like she had nothing to lose, diving for loose balls and forcing defensive stops. On paper, this game belonged to Los Angeles. But on the floor, it was the Fever's heart, hustle, and flat-out toughness that flipped the script.
Sims left open for three. She got it. Offensive rebound. Sims the runner. Here's Howard. Shovels Sims right at the doorstep, and she gets it off the window. 3-on-3 the other way. Sims the take and finishes the lefty layup.
Odyssey Sims has been everywhere in her career, including wearing a Sparks jersey back in her younger.
That veteran was Erica Wela. The 33-year-old guard didn't just steady the ship, she became the ship. With the Sparks pressing and throwing bodies at Mitchell, Wheeler calmly dissected the defense, hitting mid-range jumpers, drawing fouls, and barking out orders like a floor general who's seen it all. Every possession that could have unraveled, she tightened. Every loose ball that looked gone, she chased down. By the fourth quarter, it was clear. Indiana wasn't just surviving without their stars. They were thriving because a season leader refused to let the season slip away. Wheeler's poise turned what should have been a blowout loss into one of the Fever's gutsiest wins of the year.
On this night, though, she was a nightmare for them. She racked up 21 points, constantly finding lanes to the rim, and when the Fever needed composure late, Sims delivered the last 5 points herself. That closing stretch put the dagger in LA and gave Indiana the margin they needed to outlast both the opponent and the referees. In a season full of questions, Sims reminded everyone what experience and poise look like under pressure.
Sims has been everywhere in her career, including a stint with the Sparks back in her younger years. But on this night, she was their nightmare. She racked up 21 points, constantly finding lanes to the rim. And when the Fever needed composure, late, Sims delivered the final 5 points herself. That closing stretch put the dagger in Los Angeles and gave Indiana the margin they needed to outlast both their opponent and the referees. In a season full of questions, Sims reminded everyone what experience and poise look like under pressure.
Sparks started the game on a 7-0 run. Here's Mitchell, right back to Boston, and unable to get that one, but follows her on. Cameron Brink and Ray Burrell going to be checking in next time there's a stoppage for LA. Here's Turner in traffic, and she gets it up off the window.
Beautiful pass from Boston.
7 on the shot clock. Mitchell turning the corner. Jump stop in the lane, loses the ball. Brink throws it right to Boston.
Meanwhile, Aaliyah Boston once again looked every bit the franchise anchor she is. Her box score wasn't just points and rebounds. It showed dominance on both ends. She controlled the paint defensively, forcing the Sparks into awkward looks, and pulling down boards even against double teams. And every time the Fever's offense bogged down, Boston steadied them with strong post play, tough screens, and second chance possessions. Without her presence, that fourth quarter chaos could have ended very differently. Then came the momentum shift. Sims driving, kicking it out, and Lexi Hull draining a huge 3, despite playing heavy minutes while still swollen and bruised. From her last game, Hull embodied the team's toughness. You could see it in every dive for a loose ball, every sprint back on defense, every possession where she spaced the floor. Even when shots weren't falling, Indiana needed bodies tonight. And Hull delivered with the next woman up mentality that has become this team's identity. Kelsey Mitchell wasn't flawless, especially in crunch time, but her relentless scoring pressure forced LA to adjust defensively. All night, even when her shots didn't fall, she demanded attention, opening space for Sims and Boston to thrive. That willingness to shoulder responsibility defined Mitchell's leadership in Clark's absence.
Sims. They kick it out. Hole of 3.
Big bucket from Lexi Hull.
Stephanie White pieced together rotations built on defense and toughness. Indiana scrapped, defended, and forced every possession to matter. What we saw wasn't just survival. It was proof this group can thrive, even while short-handed. And now, with reinforcements on the way, the question becomes, what happens when Caitlin Clark rejoins this gritty core? That possibility brings a whole new energy. But here's the twist. Clark didn't even step on the court, yet she dominated the post-game conversation. Indiana's win should have been the headline, but instead, all eyes turned to Clark's reaction, to the officiating. Sitting in street clothes on the sideline, she didn't stay quiet. She made it clear the referees had crossed a line, echoing exactly what fans were already screaming online. When the league's most visible player shines, a spotlight that bright on officiating, it doesn't stay a one-night controversy. It becomes the story.
We have a deep team that a lot of people, a lot of players on our team could be playing and they're not. And that's a tribute to our depth, certainly, but also sometimes everybody wants to play, right? And I think the selfless nature of this group just can't be overstated. And that's why we're able to be in positions like this that we're able to be in.
What Clark said wasn't just about one bad call. It was about the pattern of inconsistency players have been fighting against all season. And she wasn't the only one to call it out. Sydney Coulson, sidelined with injury, added fuel after the game, pointing to how Kelsey Mitchell never seems to get the whistle she deserves. Coulson went even further, hinting at something every player has thought, but rarely says publicly. When referees refuse to protect players from obvious contact, it feels less like competing and more like surviving. That assault on the court, feeling she described, resonated with anyone who watched how physical LA was allowed to play. Together, Clark and Coulson's words reshaped the entire storyline. This wasn't just another close finish in a crowded WNBA schedule. It became a league-wide discussion about whether officiating is failing the most fundamental part of the game: fairness. Clark's influence only amplifies that conversation. Her presence in sports media is massive right now. Every clip, every quote, spreads across platforms in hours, not days. When she spotlights a problem, the entire league feels the pressure. Fans already see her as the cornerstone of Indiana's future. But in this moment, she stepped into a different role, the voice demanding accountability.
Didn't even set foot on the court, dominate the post-game conversation. That's what made this Fever Sparks game even more wild. Indiana's win should have been the headline, but instead, Clark's reaction to the officiating grabbed all the attention. Sitting on the sidelines in street clothes, she didn't stay quiet. She made it clear the referees had crossed a line, and her frustration reflected exactly what fans were already screaming online. When the most visible player in the league puts that kind of spotlight on the officiating, it doesn't stay a one-night argument. It becomes the story.
What prop bet did you place prior to suiting up tonight? What's the over/under, and are you concerned with a specific outcome? The officials in the WNBA, yes, they're incompetent, yes, they're trash, but it always seems like there's some they're so bad and so incompetent, it seems like there's shady business taking place behind the scenes. If the WNBA needs to investigate in anything, if somebody needs to investigate in anything regarding the WNBA, it's about how dirty the hands are of the officials.
What Clark said wasn't just about one bad call. It was about the pattern of inconsistency players have been fighting against all year. And she wasn't the only one to point it out.
And Coulson's voice mattered too. She's a veteran who knows the ins and outs of league politics. When she speaks up, it proves this frustration isn't just coming from a young star. Veterans are tired of it as well, which gives the message even more weight. For the Fever, these weren't just complaints. They were rallying cries that fueled their victory and gave meaning to the chaos around it. Add to that the fact Clark is already back at practice, running drills and working through pre-game routines, and the entire energy surrounding Indiana shifts. The players have shown they can withstand anything while shorthanded. Add Clark back into the lineup, and what once looked like scrappy survival suddenly transforms into dangerous potential. The playoff picture feels different now. Indiana isn't just clinging to a spot. They look ready to test themselves against whoever stands in the way.
Influence amplifies that conversation because her presence in sports media is so massive right now. Every clip of her, every comment spreads across social platforms and talk shows in hours, not days. When she draws attention to a problem, the entire league feels that pressure. Fans already look at her as the cornerstone of Indiana's future, but here, she took on a different role.
What does it mean when the league's biggest star starts showing up to practice again? For Fever fans, it means hope is turning into something much more concrete. Caitlin Clark hasn't played in weeks since that right groin injury sidelined her. But now she's not just there for morale. She's actually shaping up with her teammates, running through shoot-arounds, joining drills, and stepping into pre-game routines. When fans in Los Angeles spotted her knocking down jumpers before tip-off, it wasn't just background noise. It looked like a player rounding the corner. The interesting part, though, is how careful Indiana is being. No one has put a date on her return, and maybe that's smart. Lower body injuries in the WNBA can linger if they're rushed. Still, this isn't a staged appearance to calm the fan base. Clark is actively participating, and that signals a real shift toward getting back on the floor. One fan summed it up perfectly online with just 2 words: she's back. And that kind of buzz doesn't happen for small steps.
How dirty are the hands of some of these players that are in this league? Oh yeah, tonight's the night I'm just gonna go 2 for 13. Oh, hey, it's the WNBA. I can slide into 2 for 13 and nobody will bat an eyelash. I can shoot 5 for 22 and nobody would really think twice.
Still, the unanswered timeline creates tension. Fever coaches won't commit, the front office hasn't released an official word, and Clark herself is keeping things vague. That silence fuels speculation. Will she be back before the regular season ends? Or will Indiana only see her if they reach the playoffs? That mystery has its own power. Every new clip of her moving in practice sparks debate and pushes anticipation higher. And if this team has already weathered the storm without her, dropping 4 of 5 before bouncing back with 2 straight, imagine what her presence adds heading into the postseason picture. Teams across the league know one thing: adding a shooter who stretches defenses the way Clark does changes everything. It's not just the spacing, it's her court vision, her instinct to elevate teammates, her poise in tough possessions. Indiana has built resilience in her absence, plugging a generational creator back into that foundation that could supercharge their entire system.
Nice roll!
What does it mean when the being in those shoot-arounds and non-contact drills isn't a fake appearance? The kind an organization sets up to calm fans down. It's active participation, and that signals a real shift toward getting back on the floor. One fan summed up the feeling online with a simple reaction: she is back. That kind of buzz doesn't happen for small steps.
You know, it wasn't ideal in terms of how the game was. It was ugly. We had moments where we were better than others, but we dug in. I mean, when you think about key defensive stops, key offensive rebounds, like AB's key offensive rebound there at the end, you know, making plays, deflections that led to steals or deflections that led to bobbled passes, just the sense of urgency that we played with in those last minutes through some gray area, right? Through some times when it wasn't perfect. And, you know, it was a gut check time, and our team stepped up to the challenge.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Still,
I'm really proud of you guys. That was an ugly, hard-fought win. Hard-fought win. And listen, we know that we didn't play our best basketball, and in those moments where we needed a stop or we needed a big bucket, that you don't teach. And y'all got it. And y'all got it. So again, marrying our energy effort with our execution. Okay, that's our journey. But this is a hard win right here. I'm proud of you guys. Great job. Together, 3, 1, 2, 3. Together.
We've seen playoff runs transformed by late season comebacks before. A star returning at the right time can flip an underdog into the storyline nobody saw coming. Caitlin Clark now steps into that same potential. A healthy Clark doesn't just put points on the board, she boosts morale. Her presence reminds everyone in that locker room they're not just scraping for survival anymore. And for the fans, every sighting spreads like wildfire. Clips of her shooting pre-game rack up thousands of shares within hours, proving just how much gravity she has. Even off the court, tie that energy to a Fever roster that's already proven it can fight through adversity, and suddenly her return feels less like an addition and more like rocket fuel. Indiana has shown they can endure. With Clark back, they could prove how far this group can actually climb when the playoffs arrive. The Fever's win in Los Angeles wasn't flashy, but it told the story of a team that refuses to back down. They were pushed to the edge by officiating decisions that baffled fans, yet still found a way to keep their playoff path in control. That matters more than the final score. It showed they can handle chaos and still stand firm. So here's the question. Is the WNBA being held back by poor officiating? Fans deserve better, and players do too, because once Caitlin Clark returns, this toughened Fever group might just be the team nobody expects. But everyone suddenly has to fear. What do you think of the WNBA refs? Let us know down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.